and welcome to this evening's broadcasting of N54 News. As always, I am your host Sven, and today our story takes us all the way back to the distant year of August 20th, 2023. A nuclear explosion tore through Night City Center, killing and injuring well over 750,000 people, just during the incident alone. And in the aftermath of the incident, due to incidents of radiation poisoning exposure and just general crime exploding, this event would kickstart the Time of the Red, and the event itself would later become known as the Night City Holocaust. That's what's commonly agreed upon. There was a tower, a strike team, a detonation, no more tower, and we entered the Time of the Red. Everything beyond that, it's a bit less clear for people. So, in today's story, let's remember the fallen and take a deeper look into what actually happened that fateful August night, and what Arasaka is hiding from you. Only right here on N54 News. John Robert Linder, also known as Johnny Silverhand to the public, lies. You know that, I know that, whole fucking world knows it. The main question running through the back of our minds any time he opens up his mouth is how much of it is a lie, because I guarantee at least some of it will be. And above all, why? While I don't have an immediate answer for the second part of that question, I do want to look into the most interesting lie told by Johnny Silverhand in the story at large. And that, of course, is, how did he die? We all know the inconsistencies of 2077, which, granted, are intentionally put there, as, after all, according to Alt, Johnny is unreliable at best. And here we have Johnny dying 3 separate times. Once as he's trying to leave the interior garden, twice as he's getting onto the helicopter, pulling them out of the tower, and one final time as Saburo Arasaka hits him with the Soul Killer 3.0 virus. And shockingly enough, none of these are even what happened. So, you might be asking, can I not trust my own eyes? Have the techno-necromancers of Alpha Centauri truly stolen my vision and turned my wits against me already? To that, I say, no. You simply must know where to look for this truth. Where the truth really lies, in between the twisted stories of rocker boys and solos. To a book published back in 1997 by a little company called Artel Saurian Games. This book, entitled Firestorm Shockwave, and its partner book, Firestorm Stormfront, go over the final days of the Fourth Corporate War, before everything descends into the Time of the Red, due to the events of the Night City Holocaust. Now that you know my source, let's get into the events that are the same between the two. First up, Johnny Silverhand, also known as John Robert Linder, took part in the 2023 raid on Arasaka Tower in Night City. 2. During the events of the raid, a nuclear demolition charge goes off, destroying the tower and large amounts of central Night City. 3. Johnny Silverhand is shot to pieces by Atom Smasher before getting hit with a Soul Killer 3.0 virus. After that, things change up a little bit. So, there wasn't a single chopper strike. Hell, it wasn't even a chopper. It was an aerodyne vehicle. There were 3 teams instead of just a single one and a small crew. Let's go over these operatives. First up, we have Strike Team Alpha. Their leader is Johnny Silverhand, rocker boy extraordinaire, child soldier, veteran of the Second Central American Conflict, henceforth being called the SCAW. And above all, he is a cyber psycho. Second up, we have their netrunner, Spider Murphy, protege and close friend of Ray Schwartmoss, second best friend of Alt Cunningham, and one of the best netrunners ever seen in the old net. Third up, we have Rogue, another solo in the party, one of the best low-profile solos in the 2020s. with a long history between both Silverhand and Blackhand, involving a few romantic flings that may or may not end up good for both of them. She is one of the most skilled people Johnny knows, and she had to tag along between her and Blackhand, make sure everything gets done right. Next up, we have Shaitan. Yet another solo. This man is a full Borg. He has a massive vendetta against the Arasaka Corporation, and outfitted with his new full body conversion, he's sure to rain hell upon the land. Next, we have Thompson. He is their media. Close friend of Johnny Silverhand, investigative reporter, and yet another veteran of the SCAW. He also took part in the raid of 2013, so he's been around Arasaka Tower a few times, more so with Johnny Silverhand, and he's ready to kick their ass. Augmenting their crew is a handful of Militech Spec Ops, Lobos from the Aldecallo Nation, and a few assorted mercenaries. Their part in the operation is to infiltrate the lab on the 120th floor to rescue Alt Cunningham, creator of the Soul Killer virus, and Johnny's off and on again girlfriend input, depends on which version of the slang you want to use, but their relationship is complicated. Alt is also one of the best runners in the old net. She's only dwarfed by literal gods within cyberspace like Bart Moss, but we can't all be Bart Moss. In fact, I think it's better that none of us are Bart Moss. Strike Team Beta. These guys are full of unknown mercenaries. I'll let you in on a little secret. They're the player characters for the tabletop game that you're running. It's a bit complicated to try and rope player characters into a massive game like this. Their part in the operation is to find the database of Arasaka intel, make a copy, and destroy it. These are the people in charge of the nuke that will be planted within the bunker. Their job is also to run distraction for Team Alpha. And final, we have Strike Team Omega. These guys, I had to get a source from a different book, being Firestorm Stormfront. Again, also published in '97. Up first is Morgan Blackhand, their solo, their leader, and he is a man's man, a solo's solo, and a mercenary's mercenary. He is a tactical genius and the most famous soldier of the 21st century. And like most people in the crew, he is also a veteran of the Second Central American War. Next on the list, we have Dexter Dobbs, the group's techie, close friend of Morgan Blackhand, and technical genius with absolutely no concept of a budget. Even his power bill is astronomical, hence why Blackhand normally doesn't work with him. Funding would run out very, very quickly. Next up, we have Raish Chappell, a solo, partner of Dobbs. He came recommended by Blackhand. I don't know the full story behind him. Next up, Brenda Melendez. Netrunner, specifically, is a combat netrunner, meant to get down there in the action and do things quick and dirty. Not like the geniuses in the chair we have in the other side, like Spider, Alt, Raish. He is a genius in the field, but he doesn't hold a candle to the geniuses in chairs. After that, we have Mike McRae, their group's medtech. This is the man who amputated Blackhand's arm, giving him his iconic name. He is a very old friend of Blackhand. No duh, considering they worked together all the way back in, give that man a cigar, the Second Central American War. Now, we have Dash Panther. He is one of their covert operatives. He is a speed demon, jumpy as hell, and I wouldn't be shocked if he had cyber ADHD and a bunch of other stuff of that nature. And then finally on their team, they have the Faceless Man. Another one of their covert operatives. He is their infiltration specialist. He has a full Borg conversion with the Gemini frame, and he can mimic damn near anyone with the same body shape, down to voice, actions, whole kit and caboodle. He is your infiltration specialist. Their part in the operation: fire support, reinforcements, interference. They're basically here to make sure that that operation actually goes well and things don't go completely tits up. And with all that out of the way, there is one immediate change as we approach the building that is very perplexing to me. Shayton getting gunned down and injured on the approach. No clue as to why Johnny decided that that was what happened, but there's your first major difference. Congratulations, Shayton. You are out of the running. Goodbye. You may collect your coat on the way out. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. And now we fast forward all the way to the point of this video. Past the storming of the tower. Past the planting of the explosive device. Past the infiltration of the tower, installation of the Liberator virus, and as we're running towards the exit, an explosion tearing through the room, knocking Johnny on his ass, cutting later to where we board the chopper, getting killed a second time by Smasher, and rewinding all the way back to before her when he gets turned into a USB drive by a World War II Imperial Japanese Air Force pilot. Now, let's get into fully what they say happens in 2077. Over to you. So, going to the whiteboard, we can get a chance to look at a more top-down view of what happened in 2077 with the gig Love Like Fire. So, we have just planted the nuke, uploaded the Liberator virus, and set everything rolling for the events that were planned for the Night City bombing of Arasaka Tower of 2023. Only this is the version of 2077. So, with this, we have Johnny. We've left Kay Arasaka's office, and we're running we get to the area where we're going to get up to the roof. We're ready to do this, where we're going to meet Thompson, Spider, and Shayton, who he could fool me by telling me he doesn't exist. And the other person we have in this whole kettle of fish is Blackhand. We don't know where Blackhand is, but we do know that he exists. We don't have an image for what Blackhand looks like, so I just took a picture of what the creator of his character, Mike Pondsmith, said he looked like, which is George Clooney in the movie Three Kings. And we're going off of what he said, because what he said is law in theory. But he also created Cyberpunk 3.0, so make of that what you will. But with this, as we get to the roof, hit the door, guess what? Kaboom, bang, blam. Atom Smasher and his squad tears through that door, blowing it up. And he falls into the couch. Doing a lot of that today. But Atom Smasher explodes through the door, and our friend Johnny, he gets tossed from the second floor into the bottom floor with the rock garden. Oh no, that's horrible. We're gonna ruin the fucking shrubbery and bonsai trees or whatever. Then, Atom Smasher just follows us down to the floor as we're on our ass before we presumably either get shot the hell up or just left here. This is the first death. After that, we head up to the rooftop, and guess what? Oh no, as we're getting onto the helicopter, he shoots us down before putting a rocket right through our noggin. No good. With all of that, we have the death of Johnny Silverhand and the raid of 2023, version 2, according to this, the game of 2077. Let's go on to see how things really happened. Cool transition bit here. Maybe like a cyberpunk glitch out. Let's see what actually happened back in the tower in 2023. So this is going to be a reading from the book I mentioned before, Firestorm Shockwave. This is page 137 and 138. Before you guys get all up on my ass, yes, I do own a physical copy of it. I just printed out the 2 pages I need on cardstock so that I can actually gesture around and not lug around an entire book, because I want to keep that book nice. So, the events are as follows. And as events go, with them following as they may, I'm gonna adjust these little stickers around on the screen, and you guys will get to see what happens. Odds are I'm gonna have superimposed a copy of the actual in-book image and icons so that it actually looks nice on screen, but this is mostly for me. Firestorm Shockwave, the gun is silenced. Event, Johnny's dead, babe. Johnny's dead. Going somewhere. Adam's voice cuts through the silent offices like a bullet crack. Somebody screams, "Cover!" as machine gun fire and shotgun fire from Arasaka troopers spray through the narrow hallway, cutting 3 of the team's Spec Op troops in half. Spider scrambles behind a heavy pillar as Rogue and Johnny take up positions behind office furniture wholly inadequate to the job of stopping heavy fire. Spider watches Shaitan simply fade into near invisibility against a wall. So, let's set the scene as it's happening. We have Adam Smasher and his Arasaka goons just raining fire into this area. It's got the cubicles, and probably safe to say that as I drop a pen, there's like a support pillar somewhere in the middle, just to keep the office together. So we have Spider Murphy hiding behind the aforementioned pole. Thompson, the same gentleman who took place in the 2013 raid on Arasaka Tower, and according to 2077, got his shit kicked in by Johnny due to events. He's somewhere over here, hiding and actively trying to not get hit. Here we have Johnny. He's just doing his thing. And beyond that, I have her somewhere about. We have Rogue. I can't find where I put Rogue, but she's going to be added in post. She's somewhere about, let's say, she's near enough to Johnny, but they're all getting peppered with fire. Rogue pops off a burst of fire from her rifle, then fires 2 grenades off. The Saka goons seem to want the lab intact and aren't using heavy weapons. Team Alpha is under no such constraint. Shaitan fires off blast after blast from the portable cannon he calls a shotgun, but is tagged by an autocannon burst that sends him rolling. People on both sides spasm and fall as high velocity death fills the entire floor of the building. Somewhere. That would be about there, Spider. Somewhere, Spider hears Thompson scream in pain. Things are bad. There are too damn many of them. Plus, that Borg. Time to make a decision. Bullets chip at her cover while she hurriedly links her cyberdeck into the heavy suitcase memory stash carrying Alt. No time to double check. No time to confirm links or space available. She launches herself into the net, dragging the linked icons that represent Alt's personality, memories, and whatever else it is that makes her different from an expert system. All Alt has, she thinks to herself, is a hope and a prayer. Here goes nothing. With a virtual toss, Spider fires the various portions of Alt into the net, tagging them with a marker so that she can maybe retrieve them someday, and, if she's lucky enough, re-res them back into her second best, now first best, friend. Her first best friend, if you weren't aware, is Bart Moss. Yeah, Bart Moss is an interesting fellow, and this is canon. Apparently he likes the Star Wars films, specifically calling them flatvids. Where was I? On the other side of the room, Johnny crouches under a desk, fighting with his past between bursts of gunfire. I left Alt last time. Just abandoned her. Not again, not ever. Better to burn out, says the Hand. Yeah, he says to himself, and he knows what he has to do. That's another thing that isn't really mentioned in 2077. It is the fact that Johnny is fully cyber psycho. Granted, it's not from a complete overload of cybernetics, though he does have a fair amount. I have the character sheets printed off somewhere. They're over here. Come on, where the hell did I put the paper? He has a decent amount of cyber in him, just not the same amount as someone like Smasher, who is pretty much all chrome. Think after the events of this night, it was confirmed that he is dealing with about 97% chrome. Granted, getting hit by a RPG later and being used as a surfboard by the one and only Black Hand certainly did not help matters. There we go. Spider spends just a few seconds in the net, an eternity, and never enough time. She comes back to find her cover still getting powdered, though the cacophony has diminished. She sees Rogue, discarding her empty rifle and pulling 2 heavy pistols. Spider draws her own flechette pistol, somewhat comforting, in her hand. Suddenly, Johnny's voice rings out, not in song, but in challenge. Hey, Steelhead! Let's rock and roll! Johnny is standing in plain sight, a Militech SMG in one hand, the Malorian in his other. He begins pumping out rounds at Adam. Adam turns, but hesitates, astonished at the sheer audacity of the rocker boy, challenging him with weapons that won't even crease his armor. An arm comes up, the auto shotgun in it opens fire. APDS rounds cut through the young rocker, sawing him in half. Johnny spins and falls to the ground. A surprised look on his face, the Malorian still smoking in his fist. It only takes a second. So, updating our board. We have Johnny Silverhand out in the open. Johnny Silverhand is now dead. If I wasn't recording this section multiple times, I'd have torn him in half to show that he got cut, boom, right in half by that set of rounds. And with that, Shaitan, he disappeared behind the couch. That's not good. So we're going to add another random mark to this. That is Shaitan. He is there doing his thing, currently recovering from getting hit by autocannons. But his main event is going to come up, and this is partially why it's so interesting that he got cut down during the approach of the event in Love Like Fire, as opposed to being present for this part, because this is the main reason why Johnny's death is so important. Where was I? It only takes a second, but a second is all Shaitan needs. He suddenly seems to emerge from the wall behind Adam and grapples him. Seeing an open, Rogue and Spider react as one. Rogue stands, bullets streaming from her pistol like tears, raking down Arasaka troopers. Spider sits up and fires, picking Sokka targets and putting them down, one after another. It's all just a V-sim, she says. Just a game. Just a game. Just a game. Adam lurches around, but Shaitan's grip is that of desperation. Spider sees that Shaitan's right arm hangs shattered and limp at his side, blasted by a grenade. It's only a matter of seconds before Adam gets free and takes them down. So, this is a very similar situation to what we do find Shaitan in the helicopter on our approach. He is battered and beaten to all hell, and I think one of his arms is actually loose that we can see. So it is interesting that that event got moved from the assault to the approach. Again, wonder why.
Get out of there! I've got him!
Shaitan's hollow voice bellows to the two women. The rest of the Sokkas are down, but so are the Spec Ops. Rogue, Spider, and a crippled Thompson are alone with the two battling Borgs. They can hear more soldiers coming, They know they have no choice. As Spider moves to the Rocker Boy's mangled form, Rogue grabs her arm, her hard eyes boring into Spider's own. A quick jump in from the version of me who just wrote this. I forgot to mention, this is going to be added right as we're talking about Spider being near Johnny's body. That is the point in which she gets to add the Soul Killer chip into Johnny's corpse, where the chip is then later found by individuals inside of the ruins of Arasaka Tower. So, I'll let you get back to it, current me. Johnny's dead, Spider. Help me get Thompson out of here. Rogue's eyes speak with certainty and incredible pain, all slammed away behind an iron will to survive. Keep the meat baggage light, Ray used to say. Spider reaches for the data suitcase, but sees that it, too, has been savaged by gunfire. It's wrecked. She quietly wishes Alt good luck. Spider, now! I can't do a good Rogue voice. Actually, I can't really do any good voices, but Johnny will be avenged, Spider thinks to herself as she and Rogue drag the wounded Thompson to the elevator. The elevator's over here, so... Actually, there is an elevator right here, I believe, so I think that means that they drag themselves across the room to about here, as Shaitan and Smasher are doing their thing. Arasaka troops are dead. Johnny, he is currently doing his best impression of a well-butchered carcass. This is the paper I need. But Johnny will be avenged, Spider thinks to herself, as she and Rogue drag the wounded Thompson to the elevator. She softly touches the data chips in her pocket. And so will Raish. And then this is where we get to the actual written part of the adventure that isn't an event. As Team Alpha makes it escape, it will be pinned down by Arasaka elite troops, led by Adam Smasher. Most of the Militech red shirts will get cut down in the first volley, and they will take refuge in a lab. Spider tries to data pump Alt through her cyber deck, with unknown results. She doesn't have time to confirm the transfer. Johnny buys the group the opening to take down the Arasaka troops, but gets shot and killed by a burst from Adam's autocannon. He never gets the chance. Shaitan grabs Adam from behind as Rogue and Spider escape with Thompson from the lab. If any players are with Team Alpha, they can participate, but Johnny must die, and Adam and Shaitan must be left alone to battle at the end. So, that is the actual event that takes place in 2023. It's really fascinating because as we're looking through it, you can see similarities to what happened in 2020. But it's not enough to be, like a complete identical thing. It's the same themes, same general vignettes, but the event itself is completely different as I'm looking around to find the right paper, which I can't seem to find. But as we're going through this, it does make you wonder, what was the thought process of, the behind-the-scenes stuff that got the CDPR team to read "The gun is silenced" and translate it into an actual event. It'd be really interesting if somebody could, and I'd be willing to take a crack at it, but I'm not good with coding or computers, much for that matter, to try and recreate this event, because you can probably repurpose a bunch of in-game assets and all that. You just have to reprogram everything, which is that is a different thing altogether. But yeah, you really have to wonder what was the through line that got them from point A to point B, because I do have another video planned on this that is going over the 2013 raid, where they try to go get Alt the first time with Thompson, and Thompson gets, his face beat up and pushed in. But everything mixed together, it just leaves us in a very fascinating place, all things considered. And having gone through it, as I return to the script proper, you can see the actual difference between the two of them, specifically with this section, and it's a rather stark difference. In 2077, Johnny, when you get down to it, he pretty much died for nothing. He's doing his thing, running up the stairs, cross the bonsai trees and the rock garden. Boom, he gets shot in the chest. Congratulations, we have one dead rocker boy. The second place where he could actually die is, him running up the stairs. He manages to make it all the way up to the rooftop with a helicopter, which is really weird because helicopters had been almost completely phased out by the time of 2023 and the Fourth Corporate War, being replaced by Ospreys or Aerodyne vehicles, the aerial vehicles you see with like Trauma Team, MaxTac, NCPD, all of those guys using the flying cars. So, again, I do wonder what the internal decision was to get to that point, and most likely it was the fact that probably had that model lying around and they didn't want to really deal with that because there's enough crossover that it doesn't matter. And who else do you know that would be going over a little event like this completely from scratch and deciding, hey, you people at CDPR, you messed up. It's supposed to be a Osprey or AV, not a helicopter. At least I think it's supposed to be a Osprey. Yeah, because everybody makes their way in through different areas. Yeah, it's AV that they use in, as confirmed on page 140, because Smasher, he challenges Blackhand to a duel. He uses that to buy time to let everybody get away. Morgan snaps around, rolls down in rollout, rolls out one of the AV's open hatches, heavy assault rifle cradled in his arm. Yeah, it's an AV in the module, not a helicopter. So keep that in mind as you play through it again. It's supposed to be AV, not a chopper. Yeah. It's weird that in 2077 he dies for pretty much nothing. The nuke still goes off and all that. Rogue makes it out alive, but it looked like she would have made it out anyway. And, nuke goes off, roll credits. We wake up in the dumpster field after having a little out-of-body experience. But here's the difference. In 2020, the module taking place in 2023, his death is probably one of the most important things during this final act, because it allows Shaitan to grapple with Smasher, and as such, they're able to engage and let everybody else escape through the elevator up to the top floor. And hell, even Shaitan, who gets absolutely demolished by Smasher, turned into just his life pod, which granted is later used to taunt Blackhand into an actual fight, he survives that, either being found in the rubble or taken by the players, Strike Team Beta, and fitted into a new body where he's found running around in the Time of the Red. But with all these changes, you can really see them ripple out across the game, because, as stated, Smasher's real rival was Blackhand. Granted, Blackhand didn't really see it as a rivalry, and he, being one of the smartest and most tactical characters in the system, he mainly just gets the fuck out anytime Smasher decides to try and get personal, which, smart. I know it's a joke and isn't actually canon, but Smasher has the ability to kill 1d6 player characters a turn. And you better hope he doesn't roll a 6, because just because exploding die doesn't work with actual damage, I think that it could probably work in Smasher's case. He is that guy. But with it, so, at the end when we're, gunning down Smasher in the room, which I have issues with, we see Smasher, on his knees, and we're all like, one moment. We see Smasher on his knees, and we're all like, "This is for Silverhand, you son of a bitch." Bang, 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 bang. And his response is, aptly, "What the fuck are you talking about, man? I know Johnny Silverhand as A rocker boy, B, a terrorist, and C, I think he might have been on the crew. But there was no relationship between the two beyond, maybe thinking of his name as, between Adam's listening of Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog and other Elvis classics." Which really is fascinating, because it makes sense. Adam Smasher is not going to care about anyone on the top 500 artists of that generation, even if they have sold out shows and played on the Crystal Palace. So the heroic self-sacrifice here, like I said, it bought everyone else time to get out alive. That is good, because, the whole idea of cyberpunk, as in the TTRPG system and all that, according to Mike Pondsmith, is you don't save the city, you can only save yourself. You don't save the setting. It's already gone to shit. Best you can do is try and save yourself. And that's kind of what Silverhand does here. He saves everyone else because he, to his mind, was the one that killed Alt back in 2013, and he thinks he failed her, so he, in his cyber-psychotic little moment, he saves everyone else because he's trying to do good, and do good he did. So it's fascinating that CDPR went this route, because it's kind of changed the perception of Silverhand and the entire raid, because except for people who were actually there, and, us grognards, graybeards, whatever you want to call us, the people who've played 2020 and really dove into the lore, we've read everything from Deep Space to Bart Moss's Guide to the Net, all the way to, I don't know, let's just say Pacific Rim, because that's a pretty good source book. We are the ones who know what, in theory, actually happened, and yes, it can change and all, but this is a tale that, like all tales, gets changed over time. So if there's anybody at CDPR or Artel, or hell, even Pondsmith, if you, Pondy, have somehow managed to stumble your way into here, please do let me know what's your take on this whole thing. Because I'm sure you have stuff, granted it's probably kept behind NDAs and a million other things, but I'd be interested to hear your take on this. Hell, even just in character as Morgan Blackhand. I'm sure that old Blackhand has a few things to say on it. I'm dying to hear what you all have to say about this, because I've gone off script a few times, talked around in circles, and this has fueled so many Reddit discussions as of late that I finally decided I'd take a crack at how things should be. This is the way the world actually works. I've been there. I haven't run this, but dear God, I have read through this module so many times, even when not preparing for this video. But as we're heading towards Cyberpunk Orion, Rusted Chrome for Cyberpunk Red, which I think is still coming. I know we're getting a 2077 source book, or a 2070s, I think. And we've also got Edge Runner Seasons 2 and other products. Hey, maybe you can revive the old Netrunner. card game that you guys had. That's a lot of fun. But no matter your take on this, why do you think Silverhand remembers stuff the way it happened in the 2077 scenes? Because it's different and a half. But like I said, I've rambled enough, I've gone off script, and I'm probably gonna turn this into a massive thing to edit, because, yeah. But, that being said, you all know the drill. Stuff down below, do with it as you see fit. As always, I am Sven. I've got the first 2 hours of Metal Gear Solid Delta to watch through if you want a watch through of Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and also Metro Last Light, and yeah, we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, this is Elvin Prince, Sven, signing out. Adios, chooms.